When others cling to armies, alliances, and empty loyalties, you wield a far deadlier weapon, the art of influence without attachment. Today, you will learn how to move unseen, command respect without a faction, and bend the currents of power to your solitary will. Power is not a gift freely offered. It is a terrain of shadows, illusions, and silent maneuvering. To survive and dominate without a faction is to embrace the cold calculus of human nature. In this exploration, we shall peer into the hidden recesses of influence, where loyalty is ephemeral, fear is a tool, and subtlety is the mightiest of swords. Here, we abandon sentiment and embrace the clarity of the strategist, to act where others cannot, to strike where others hesitate, and to master the game from the shadows. Have you ever noticed how men swarm together like bees, thinking strength lies in numbers? Factions, alliances, coalitions. They are comforting illusions, veils that hide the truth. Power belongs to those who move alone. Consider the prince who commands without a council, the general who acts without an army at his back, the shadow in the corner whose whisper bends the course of events. The solitary path is not weakness. It is freedom. When you detach from the noisy crowd, you no longer answer to their fears, their ambitions, or their petty rivalries. You become a force unbound by loyalty, unshackled by expectation. Do you understand what that means? It means you can act where others hesitate, strike where others stumble, and manipulate outcomes before anyone even perceives your hand. History is littered with examples, the cunning rise of Cesare Borgia, who moved like a ghost through the courts of Italy, feared yet alone, the silent maneuverings of Talleyrand, who controlled kings while wearing no uniform, owning no army, commanding only information and subtlety. Isolation is not loneliness, it is leverage. It allows you to observe without distortion. Factions are mirrors that reflect only what others wish you to see. Their alliances are fragile bridges, their loyalty is a currency easily devalued. You, standing apart, are the observer and the architect. You see the cracks in their unity. You hear the unspoken desires that sway their decisions. You anticipate betrayal before it is conceived. Psychologically, the solitary strategist has an advantage impossible to overstate. Humans are creatures of conformity. They follow the visible leader, obey the apparent authority, defer to the collective. But when there is no faction to protect or constrain you, when no other ego crowds your space, your mind is free to calculate, to plan, to exploit. You can craft influence as a sculptor shapes clay, unseen and unchallenged, molding the currents of behavior without ever stepping into the light. Let us consider the lesson of the chessboard. A pawn alone is powerless. A pawn within a cluster is constrained, limited by the movements of others. But the knight, the bishop, the queen, these are pieces that command influence through mobility and choice, not mere numbers. In life, as on the board, the solitary actor, nimble, patient, observing, becomes a piece no faction can contain. And yet, this power demands discipline. You cannot afford the comforts of camaraderie. Friendship is often a cage, affection is often a chain. Look at the fate of generals and advisors who trusted their companions too deeply. Their decisions were swayed, their secrets leaked, their influence diluted. To be alone is to be free, but also to be vigilant. The solitary strategist must learn the art of detachment, how to appear harmless while wielding authority, how to listen without reacting, how to strike subtly without leaving a trail. Consider the intelligence networks of history, the spies of Elizabethan England, the courtiers of Versailles, the advisors who whispered into the ears of emperors. They had no armies, no overt power, no factions. Yet their influence surpassed kings. Why? Because they understood the solitary advantage, the freedom to see, to calculate, and to act unbound. Their power was silent, lethal, and invisible. Ask yourself now, do you cling to your alliances as shields, or do you embrace the solitude that breeds strategy? Do you allow your decisions to be shaped by the fears and desires of the crowd, or do you rise above, unseen, directing the currents of influence to your will? The solitary path is not easy. It demands patience, cold reasoning, and the willingness to be misunderstood. But it offers rewards unattainable by those shackled to factions: clarity, control, and the power to strike decisively without interference. And here lies the paradox: the world fears those who act alone, yet the world cannot stop them. It is not armies that topple kingdoms, it is vision, foresight, and the subtle hand of one who has no need of a faction. You, standing apart, can bend the loyalties of many, shape the actions of the powerful, and move entire societies while remaining in shadow. So I leave you with this: numbers offer comfort. Alliances offer security, but true influence, the kind that commands respect, fear, and obedience, lives in the solitary strategist. Will you step into that shadow? Will you wield the freedom that isolation grants? Or will you remain among the swarm, predictable and constrained, while unseen forces carve your fate? The choice is yours. But know this: those who master solitude do not merely survive, they dominate. And the path ahead grows darker still, for the next principle will reveal how to turn this solitary freedom into invisible authority over all who believe themselves masters. Have you ever wondered why some men command obedience without ever lifting a sword, without ever claiming a title? They do not rely on armies, gold, or overt displays of power. They wield influence as a silent blade, sharp, precise, unseen. This is the art of invisible leverage. It is the true measure of a strategist. Consider Talleyrand, the master of diplomacy in post-revolutionary France. He owned no kingdom, commanded no army, yet he shaped the destinies of kings, emperors, and nations. How? Not through force, but by occupying the shadows. He knew the desires of men, their fears, their hidden ambitions. He placed himself where the strings of influence could be tugged without notice, bending events to his will while appearing insignificant. Invisible leverage begins with observation. Watch closely. Do you see how power flows? Not from the loudest, not from the strongest, but from those who understand the currents beneath the surface. The courtier who smiles while listening, the advisor who nods while calculating, the shadow that whispers just enough to redirect the crowd. All are masters of this hidden domain. Ask yourself this: why does a king fear his counselor more than the invader at his gates? Because the invader acts openly, the counselor acts unseen. The mind is the battlefield, and those who grasp its terrain can win without a single battle fought. Influence, when invisible, is both subtle and unstoppable. It moves through fear, desire, and expectation, and it leaves no evidence that power has been exercised. Only the outcomes that serve the strategist. History teaches us that overt authority is fragile. Alliances shift, troops rebel, money is spent. But invisible leverage, control over perception, manipulation of belief, shaping of opinion, cannot be destroyed by armies or treasuries. Consider the Venetian spies of the Renaissance, who controlled politics across Europe not by sword or coin but by secrets, misinformation, and the careful orchestration of appearances. One whisper at the right moment, one carefully timed rumor, and entire cities bent to their strategy without ever realizing who commanded the move. Psychologically, invisible leverage exploits the predictability of human behavior. Men are vain, ambitious, and desirous of approval. They overestimate themselves and underestimate others. You can exploit this. Plant suggestions that appear to originate from their own minds. Guide their actions subtly, making them believe they are the architects of the outcome you have long prepared. Influence is strongest when it feels voluntary, when it is internalized rather than imposed. Yet be wary, invisible leverage is not passive. It requires timing, patience, and the constant calibration of perception. Too aggressive, and you reveal the hand behind the curtain. Too timid, and the opportunity slips through your fingers. The strategist must learn to walk between extremes, acting only when the effect will be maximal and the risk minimal. It is a game of shadows, where the faintest misstep can expose you to scrutiny and ruin. Look at the modern equivalents: advisors who shape policy without ever announcing their power. Media manipulators who influence public perception while remaining unseen. Corporate strategists who shift entire markets from the background. All wield invisible leverage. None need to command armies to bend reality. They understand a truth as old as history itself. Those who control perception control action, and those who control action control the world. So I ask you now, do you move through life seeking visible accolades, applauses, and titles? Or do you cultivate the quiet authority of those who are never noticed until it is too late to resist them? Do you wish to be obeyed for appearances, or do you desire the silent, unchallengeable obedience that comes from true understanding? The power of invisible leverage is seductive, but it is also a test. It measures your patience, your subtlety, and your capacity to endure the boredom of inaction while the world moves in ignorance. It demands observation without interference, manipulation without detection, and a mind capable of seeing 10 moves ahead while others fumble with the first. Remember, this visible power can be attacked, bought, or envied. Invisible power cannot. It resides in perception, in guidance, in the quiet, invisible threads that tie men to your will without their knowledge. And once you master it, you will understand why those who act openly are often destroyed while those who act unseen shape history itself. So, will you continue to chase titles and armies, or will you learn to move like a shadow, bending the will of many with the slightest gesture? The next lesson awaits, the secret to converting this silent influence into a force that commands not only attention but fear, respect, and unshakable authority. Do you understand the true wealth of a strategist? It is not gold, it is not armies, it is secrets. Knowledge, carefully hoarded, is the currency that buys obedience, fear, and influence without expense. The man who controls what others do not know holds the power to shape reality itself. Ask yourself who rules a kingdom, the king who boasts of his crown, or the advisor who whispers truths that none dare question. Consider the Medici of Florence. Their wealth was vast, but it was the secrets they controlled that ensured their dominance. Alliances, betrayals, private correspondences. Each fragment of hidden knowledge was a weapon sharper than any blade. They understood that information, when properly wielded, can topple princes, manipulate councils, and bend nations without spilling a drop of blood. This is the essence of invisible dominions, to possess the knowledge that others lack and to deploy it with precision. Secrets are leverage. They are the unspoken contracts between power and fear. When you know what others cannot, you command their attention, their decisions, even their loyalty. History demonstrates it repeatedly. Machiavelli himself advised princes to guard knowledge as fiercely as territory. The ruler who reveals all invites betrayal. The ruler who conceals strategically compels obedience. Do you see why? Ignorance breeds dependence. Those who must seek your counsel are tethered to your will, and once bound, they cannot escape without cost. Look at Talleyrand once more. He mastered the art of information control. A whisper here, a revelation there, and governments shifted, alliances fractured, wars were averted or provoked, all without ever raising a banner. He understood a fundamental truth: knowledge is a weapon of subtlety, silent but absolute. Unlike armies, secrets do not exhaust themselves. Unlike gold, they do not diminish when spent. They multiply in the hands of the wise. Psychologically, secrets exploit human nature with ruthless efficiency. Men fear what they do not know. They are drawn to what they cannot control, and they are prone to overestimating threats, underestimating friends, and miscalculating intentions. When you possess information hidden from others, you create a landscape in which their decisions are guided not by reason, but by the shadows you have cast. You become the unseen architect of their actions, the ghost behind their choices. Yet beware, secrets are double-edged. Knowledge is only power when it is protected and applied with care. Reveal too much, and the currency loses value. Reveal too little, and opportunity slips through your fingers. The strategist must balance concealment with calculated disclosure, feeding just enough to manipulate, withholding enough to remain indispensable. It is a delicate dance, a continuous assessment of human weakness and desire. Even in modern arenas, the principle endures. Corporate empires rise and fall on confidential intelligence. Political campaigns pivot on the selective release of information. Media, markets, and reputations are shaped not by what is obvious, but by what is withheld. In every era, Those who command secrets dictate the tempo of power. The visible leaders may issue proclamations, but the invisible strategist, who knows what none else do, determines the truth beneath the proclamations. Ask yourself, what do you know that others do not? How carefully do you guard it? How cleverly do you deploy it? Secrets are not merely tools, they are extensions of your will, amplifying your influence across walls, across halls, across the minds of men. When wielded with patience and cunning, they can control even those who believe themselves masters of their own fate. Do not mistake secrecy for isolation. The true strategist uses secrets to engage, to manipulate, to guide. You must listen more than you speak, observe more than you act, and measure every disclosure as if it were a coin with which you purchase obedience. Each revelation is a transaction, each hidden fact a vault of power, and every action that flows from this knowledge reinforces your authority while remaining invisible. So consider carefully, will you surrender your advantage to the open, to the obvious, to those who flaunt power without wisdom? Or will you become the holder of the currency that moves kings, shapes empires, and bends men to your silent will? The choice determines not only your influence, but your survival in a world ruled by ambition and fear. And remember this, secrets do not merely protect you, they empower you. They are the invisible hands that guide events, the silent architects of victory, and the shield that leaves your enemies blind. But mastery of this currency is only the beginning. Next, we will explore the darkest truth of all, how dependence can be exploited, and how the chains of others' needs can be turned into your own silent dominion. Do you see how men crave security? How they cling to those they believe indispensable? Dependence is the hidden lever of influence. The man who understands it controls more than wealth, armies, or title. He controls choices, actions, and even loyalty. Ask yourself, who truly rules? The one who offers protection, or the one who holds the need itself? History provides lessons, if you observe closely. Consider Cardinal Richelieu, the iron-fisted architect of French power. He created a network of nobles reliant upon his favor, carefully measuring the extent of their ambition. By controlling their access to privilege, wealth, and office, he transformed desire into submission. Each dependent acted not from loyalty, but from necessity, and necessity is more binding than any oath. Do you grasp the elegance of this strategy? Those who depend upon you are already tethered, their chains are invisible, yet unbreakable. Dependence is psychological. Humans fear loss more than they desire gain. They fear exclusion, isolation, the deprivation of what they consider vital. When you cultivate that fear, or, better, position yourself as the gatekeeper, you guide behavior with minimal effort. Subtlety is the instrument of favor given, a secret withheld, a promise implied. Each act reinforces your indispensability, until those around you act according to your will, convinced it is their choice. Think of the merchants and bankers of Renaissance Italy. They were masters of creating reliance. Florence, Venice, and Genoa thrived under systems where rulers and citizens alike depended upon the coffers of financiers, whose loans and credit dictated alliances, wars, and peace. One carefully timed withdrawal or refusal to fund a venture could bend the proudest prince to his knees. The power lay not in overt force, but in shaping dependence, in making others' success inseparable from your favor. Psychologically, this is a subtle form of dominance. When men act out of need, they surrender initiative. They justify your authority, defend your position, even mask their own resentment. Their choices, though seemingly free, are constrained by the invisible boundaries you establish. Have you noticed how people will cling to those they rely upon even when resentment simmers beneath the surface? It is because survival and advantage outweigh emotion. The strategist exploits this without mercy. Yet, this requires precision. Dependence must be earned, not demanded. It is cultivated slowly, through careful observation, timely assistance, and controlled scarcity. Too forceful an attempt, and suspicion arises. Too little, and opportunity fades. The true master measures every action, knowing that the perception of indispensability is as powerful as its reality. Even Richelieu understood this. He rarely acted directly. He shaped circumstances so that others sought his guidance, believing themselves empowered while unknowingly following his direction. Consider modern examples: corporations wielding proprietary technology to make competitors reliant, advisors controlling networks that others cannot access, even social influence in subtle forms where access to information or opportunity is controlled. All of these exploit dependence, bending others to silent will without confrontation. Power often resides not in visibility, but in making others require you for success, safety, or validation. Ask yourself now who depends upon you. Who relies on your counsel, your resources, your ability to act where they cannot? And, more importantly, how aware are they of that dependence? Do they recognize it, or do they believe they act freely? Therein lies your advantage. The more unaware they are, the more complete your control. They become instruments of your strategy, executing your vision while convinced it is their own. But beware the trap: dependence is fragile if mismanaged. Those who sense manipulation may rebel. Fear without respect breeds contempt. Provision without scarcity creates entitlement. Balance is key. The strategist must maintain subtle control, ensuring that reliance is steady, unquestioned, and psychologically binding. It is not domination through force. It is domination through necessity. So, will you continue to lead through empty commands, or will you learn to bind others through their own reliance, guiding actions without appearing to interfere? Mastery of dependence transforms influence into inevitability. Those who recognize the invisible chains around them cannot easily break free, and those who wield them dictate outcomes without battle. And remember this: dependence is not merely a tool. It is the bridge between invisible influence and absolute authority. Once you understand how to create, measure, and exploit it, you move beyond persuasion. You move into dominion. Yet even this is only the surface. Ahead lies the art of the mask: how to appear powerless while pulling the strings, turning subtlety into absolute control. The next lesson awaits, and it will test your ability to command without being seen. Have you ever noticed how the world rewards those who appear unshaken, untouched, indifferent? How often do the hot-headed, the eager, the emotional fail while the calm, silent figure moves unseen, yet always ahead? The mask of indifference is not deception for its own sake. It is strategy. It is the armor of the solitary strategist, a shield that conceals intent, misleads the ambitious, and amplifies influence. Consider Augustus Caesar, master of Rome not by the sword alone, but through the perception of unshakable composure. He allowed rivals to overreach, provocateurs to exhaust themselves, while he maintained the image of calm authority. Men underestimated him because he appeared indifferent, disinterested, even passive. Yet behind that mask, he calculated, maneuvered, and executed with precision. Do you see the brilliance? Indifference is not weakness. It is a mirror in which others reveal themselves while you remain unreadable. Psychologically, this tactic exploits human expectation. Men overvalue emotion, interpret activity as strength, and mistake urgency for competence. When you appear indifferent, you create uncertainty. Others act hastily, speak carelessly, expose their desires and fears. In contrast, the one who remains unmoved sees clearly, judges accurately, and acts only when the effect is maximal. The mask is both a defense and a weapon, shaping perception to create advantage without aggression. Think of the cunning courtiers of Versailles. Those who displayed eagerness or visible ambition were often destroyed by intrigue. But those who seemed detached, amused by the chaos of others, neutral yet observant, often became the most powerful, hidden advisors, whisperers, manipulators, whose influence extended further than those who commanded openly. The mask of indifference allowed them to operate invisibly, preserving freedom to act while others were ensnared by emotion. Even in modern life, the principle persists. Negotiators who remain calm while others panic extract concessions far beyond what logic alone would grant. Leaders who appear detached command loyalty, for confidence is inferred from composure. Investors who mask concern manipulate markets. In every case, indifference is not absence. It is control. You appear to yield to circumstance, yet circumstance yields to you. Ask yourself, how often do you reveal your thoughts too readily, your desires too openly? Do men see your strategy before you act and exploit it? Or do you hide behind the mask, letting others exhaust themselves in vain speculation, exposing weakness while you remain untouchable? Indifference is the lens through which clarity emerges. It is the silence that provokes confession, the stillness that draws action, the calm that commands attention without effort. History also shows the peril of failing to master this mask. The impulsive, the reactive, the emotional often invite disaster. Consider the downfall of nobles in the intrigues of Italian courts, or the errors of generals who allowed rage and pride to guide decisions. Every visible reaction becomes a tool for others to exploit, every display of urgency a map of your weaknesses. The mask protects against this. It conceals the truth while guiding perception, ensuring your opponents act in ways that benefit you. Even when they believe themselves free, yet mastery of indifference requires subtlety. It is not mere apathy. It is intentional composure, a deliberate concealment of desire and intent. It demands patience, observation, and restraint. You must learn to smile at provocation, to listen without revealing concern, to act with precision that appears casual. Only then does the mask become a weapon, bending the perceptions and decisions of others while leaving you invisible, untouchable, and free to maneuver. Do you grasp the power of this truth? To act openly is to be measured, anticipated, constrained. To act beneath the mask of indifference is to be immeasurable, unpredictable, free. It is the difference between survival and dominion. Those who master it move through the corridors of power without obstruction, while others are trapped by their own emotion and haste. So will you continue to display your hand, exposing your desires, fears, and ambitions to the world? Or will you embrace the mask of indifference, commanding silently, influencing without exposure, and guiding events from the shadow? The mask is more than concealment. It is freedom, leverage, and authority intertwined. And remember this: indifference is not the end of mastery. It is the gateway. Those who wear it well attract attention without effort, manipulate without confrontation, and prepare the stage for ultimate control. Next, we shall reveal the principle that ties this all together, the art of calculated presence and absence, where visibility itself becomes the instrument of power. Have you ever wondered why the most feared men are not always the most visible? Why some rulers dominate without constant display, and why some influencers command obedience through selective appearances? The secret is simple, yet profound: presence and absence, wielded with precision, are instruments of power. To be seen is to assert authority, to vanish is to create desire, fear, and speculation. Mastery lies in the rhythm between the two. Consider Napoleon Bonaparte. He did not always lead from the front. He chose the moments to appear, and in his absence, anxiety spread among allies and enemies alike. Every arrival was decisive, every disappearance calculated. Men anticipated his actions, overestimated his influence, and acted in ways that served his broader strategy, even when he was far from sight. Do you see the lesson? Presence commands, absence manipulates. The wise strategist controls both. History is full of such examples. Take Frederick the Great, who often let events unfold while he observed in silence. Courtiers, generals, and diplomats filled the vacuum with action and conjecture, unwittingly advancing his designs. When he appeared, it was decisive. When he withdrew, tension brewed, decisions faltered, and his influence expanded. Presence is a weapon, absence is a trap. Those who understand both operate like the unseen hand, guiding the world without overt confrontation. Psychologically, this principle exploits human tendencies toward expectation and uncertainty. Men overvalue what is present and underestimate what is absent. They interpret absence as weakness, scarcity, or danger, and these perceptions can be manipulated. Presence creates authority, absence creates leverage. Together, they form a cycle of anticipation and control. Ask yourself, when you are visible, do others act cautiously, strategically, or deferentially? When you are absent, do they fumble, speculate, or seek your guidance desperately? Every response is a reflection of your power, shaped by your careful management of visibility. Even subtle forms of presence and absence can be decisive. Consider the advisors of Louis XEV, who understood that the king's presence in court created competition, tension, and performance. In his absence, they maneuvered, overreached, and exposed ambition, allowing the king to reward, punish, or redirect at will. The mastery of influence does not demand constant visibility. It demands timing, perception, and the psychological orchestration of expectation. In modern contexts, this remains true. CEOs, diplomats, and leaders who appear to often lose authority. Those who vanish strategically generate influence far beyond their physical presence. Social perception is as vital as action. Appear when the effect is maximal, withdraw when observation alone is sufficient. Presence without intention is empty, absence without purpose is forgotten. The strategist balances both. And in this balance lies control that few can resist. Ask yourself, do you reveal yourself too readily, diluting your authority? Or do you understand the potency of scarcity, of selective engagement, of strategic withdrawal? Those who master presence and absence do not merely influence, they orchestrate. They bend events, opinions, and actions to their design while remaining partially unseen. Visibility becomes a signal, absence becomes a lever. Both together create a tension in which others act according to your rhythm, not their own. Remember also, absence is not merely withdrawal, it is the creation of desire and uncertainty. Presence is not mere arrival, it is assertion and impression. Use each with purpose. Let absence compel others to act in your absence. Let presence validate, reward, or correct. The power lies not in motion alone, but in the psychological currents you create by alternating visibility with invisibility. So, will you continue to be constantly visible, predictable, and consumed by the immediate? Or will you learn to vanish, reappear, and command the attention, fear, and respect of those around you without ever overextending yourself? The rhythm of presence and absence transforms influence from mere action into inevitability. Those who fail to master it act reactively. Those who wield it act strategically, unseen yet unstoppable. And remember this, mastery of presence and absence is the final thread in the tapestry of solitary influence. It ties together indifference, leverage, secrecy, and dependence into a coherent strategy that renders overt opposition powerless. Yet even this is only the beginning. Ahead lies a deeper truth. The unseen forces you now command can shape not just actions, but destiny itself, if wielded with patience, precision, and the cold mind of a true strategist. Power does not announce itself. It moves silently, unseen, shaping the actions of others while leaving no trace of its hand. Do you understand now? Influence is not force, it is subtlety, it is patience. It is the careful orchestration of perception, dependence, and secrecy. Those who believe themselves free may be your most obedient instruments. The world rewards the loud and visible. Yet true control belongs to the one who operates in shadow, who guides without being seen, who commands without consent, who strikes without warning. Will you continue to act openly, predictable, constrained by the desires of others? Or will you step into the shadows, mastering influence as the silent strategist does? If this insight sharpens your mind, leave your thoughts below. Tell us how you would wield these strategies. Subscribe now to uncover more secrets of Machiavellian mastery. Share this with those willing to see the world as it truly is, a chessboard, where the invisible hand moves all pieces. Remember, power belongs not to those who demand it, but to those who know how to make others surrender it without realizing.